Cougs house a GOAT, a greatest of all time, is potentially heading to Houston, at least we think.
You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Coogs, daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth. And whether you're a Houston fan or just a hater who came to stop by, thank you for making Locked On Coogs your first listen of the day. We should make us your first listen of the day each and every day. If you want to join the conversation but don't know what to say, in the comments down below, we're asking what Olympic event you think you would be the best at. Now, what do you think you could medal at? Like, what thing, not like I threw the shot in high school. Like, is there a sport you're watching in the Olympics that you think you would be really, really good at? Now, today, I do want to kind of talk about what's happening at FIU and how that could also happen at Houston and some stuff going on with stadium naming rights in the NCAA and so on and so forth. I want to talk about potential Houston Cougar questions to that answer about what other sports Houston Cougar athletes could be doing at an Olympic type of level. But first, I got to make sure we talk about potential Simone Biles to Houston talk. Now, I should stress that this is mostly using a story stemming from a tweet in like 2018 and kind of running with it, right? But Simone Biles, greatest gymnast of all time, I mean, has moves in gymnasts that are named after her, right? That only she can do. Bunch of gold medals, so on and so forth. In 2018 was, I think, watching college national championship gymnastics and made the comment on Twitter that once she was done competing, she would love to coach a team at, she specifically said the U of H and then parentheses, University of Houston. And I think it's interesting for a number of reasons. One, this circles back amongst Houston Cougar Twitterdom kind of every time she does really well. But this time feels particularly interesting because, frankly, Simone Biles is 27 and kind of at that point where it feels like she might be wrapping up her career. Now, Simone Biles is from Spring. She is local. She's been competing at a high level and did like the homeschool, high school, actually homeschool well before that to be able to do the gymnastics thing at the high level she was doing it at. But the biggest thing that she opens the door to here is the idea that Houston would need a gymnastics program for her to coach. There is not a single Division I gymnastics program at any Division I school in Texas, right? Oklahoma and LSU are the closest geographically, and quite frankly, they feast on the state of Texas in terms of recruiting athletes because there is not a Division I program offering scholarships for kids to do gymnastics in the state. Having a program would set Houston apart from a number of different levels in and of itself, right? Having a program that pulled Simone Biles on staff, I don't need to convince you how big a PR kind of move that would be for the university. In the Big 12, you have Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Utah, Arizona State, and BYU all have programs. I mentioned Oklahoma. They and Missouri actually both did when they were different members of the Big 12. Oklahoma just recently left, remember, right? And Big 12 gymnastics has been kind of strong in large part because of Oklahoma's presence. I'm not going to beat around the bush there. But it is kind of interesting to see like Oklahoma State and Iowa State actually also do very well in this at a national level. And so I investigated a little bit like, okay, what would this cost to do? Because Oklahoma is this legendary program. And I don't mean that like facetiously. They've won 9 of the last 11 national championships in gymnastics. They're paying their coach a base salary of $280,000 a year, but after incentives, both success-based incentives and otherwise, she actually ended up making like $400,000 a year, which is like almost twice as much as the next highest coach. Oklahoma's done this very well for a while, so it's kind of like the standard, right? They do their performances or their competitions, I should say, in the same stadium that their basketball team plays in, well, we spent all this money on Fertitta. It would not take much retrofitting or outfitting to turn that into a place to do gymnastics. The bigger issue would be practicing, but there are a number of different, very professional feeling gymnastics gyms in the greater Houston area you could start at before ultimately building your own facility on campus. Further, it would be a fairly multi-use facility. I mean, a lot of other sports would, need to use some of the same things for recovery in this because they'd all be wanting to share some of the same kinds of recovery equipment or what have you. I think there's a chance that it's worth the money. Now, admittedly, building that facility would take a pretty large chunk of change, and you'd probably have to pay Simone Biles as a head coach, even if she is new to it, as a Olympic athlete, a decent sized amount of money. I wonder, though, if this would be a way to set yourself apart in the state of Texas, bringing in Simone Biles, international legend, right? I mean, you see the way international audiences react. It's not just an American thing. International audiences, right, freak out at the idea of competing with or being in the same gym as Simone Biles, having her as the coach of this gigantic recruiting tool to pull young girls that have grown up watching her in, right? It frankly also, as far as getting the best kids in the area, makes you the immediate hometown team for so many athletes, right? As far as scheduling things at Fertitta goes, I think that's a very natural concern, right? You have this premier men's basketball program. We're hoping to build up the women's basketball program at the same level. That dominates a lot of Fertitta. However, it's a spring sport. The gymnastics teams compete in the spring semester. Volleyball is a winter or fall into winter sport. They're wrapping up in the winter is what I meant to say there. But as they wrap up in the winter, then you transition into, okay, the same balancing act you had with volleyball and the basketball programs. You just have gymnastics competitions doing the same thing. They don't need it besides their competitions, right? And so I don't think that is a horribly difficult thing to do. As far as paying coaches go, I mentioned that Biles is going to probably demand a decent amount of money to do this theoretically, right? And that Oklahoma's paying their head coach in the $280,000+ range. Missouri's Shannon Welker. Missouri, again, a strong SEC program, $185,000, right? LSU is kind of, again, not just because it's close, is one of the other national premier programs. They have the other two titles in that 11-year window I mentioned earlier. Their current head coach is not disclosed online what she makes. Dee Bro, spelled like the most Louisiana bro, Breaux, was the last head coach I found info on. She was making $250,000 a year up through 2020. She then transitioned into an admin role and co-head coach. So I'd imagine she's making more as an admin. How that ties in with her co-head coaching role, I don't know. But I do think that adding this program, bringing Simone Biles campus is a necessity. Now, I think it's helped set the Houston Cougar program apart in a number of different ways. I should point out, though, that while this tweet from 2018 from Simone Biles does go viral fairly often, that she has also recently said that she doesn't like necessarily speculation as to what people do after their career is over while their career is still going on. And I'm completely hypothesizing here that she's not competing for a whole lot longer. I say that because as a 27-year-old gymnast, that's kind of what the timeline is, right? It was said in, previous Olympics that she was on the older side to be competing. For reference, when she got a gold, I believe it was 2021. It might have been a World Championships gold before that, actually, because of how 2021 went for her. But she got a gold medal, and it was like she was the first woman to get a gold medal over the age of 20 in this event in over 50 years, right? She's now 27, right? This is a young person's game at the international Olympic level. And so, frankly, I kind of think that it's unrealistic to feel confident in that she'll compete at age 31 in 2028. And that isn't to say that she has to be behind us as far as like off the center stage here. She can take center stage with the Houston Cougar program. There, right? Houston's done it before. They pulled in Carl Lewis to help the track program, kind of at a time of need. He, being a Houston guy himself, obviously had his own ties to the university. Biles is from the area, right? So that's the tie we're connecting here. I think there's a bunch of different reasons this helps Houston, but again, that visibility, that setting yourself apart, and I think you have an automatic laying claim to all of these great athletes in the area. And why wouldn't you bring an Olympian to campus if possible? Now, ultimately, this is adding a sport, and that comes down to like scholarship issues and Title IX issues. Make sure you have the same amount of men's and women's scholarships. The solution there is you have a co-ed team. Gymnastics is a co-ed sport, not unlike track, not unlike basketball. You just have a second team. You have them both working together. You have a single coach for it, right? That's not unheard of by any stretch. That's what Oklahoma does. That's what LSU does. What Missouri. I've mentioned these schools time and time again because they're kind of who I used as models. And I think that as I run out of breath running through this and run long, frankly, on the segment, it does feel like something that benefits Houston. It's a big decision. It's a tough decision. It's one that you've got to really, really go into. You can't just kind of halfway dive into. And it's a fun thought experiment every 4 years when Simone Biles does well in something and then we're talking about it and what her next job will be and so on. It feels more imminent now because the next job could be coming very, very soon. Now, I mentioned that I want to talk about other athletes on campus with Olympic potential because it is the spirit of the Olympics going on campus right now. But first, if you're into something else like baseball or, looking for comedy or concert tickets or whatever is going on around Houston or wherever you're at, the place to get tickets to that thing is GameTime. GameTime's got this great last minute flash deal where things will pop up very last minute in your area and they'll tell you, hey, low prices, this event right now. They also tell you where, when you pick a seat, they'll show you what it looks like from that row in that section in that venue for that type of event. So you know exactly what you're getting into when you're looking to go to something. Again, comedy, concerts, games, anything going on, theater, anything going on in and around Houston or wherever you're out. I like that they have lowest price guarantee. That means they will refund you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row anywhere else for less money. I also have trouble adding stuff up. I'm a history teacher, not a math teacher, and they have all in pricing so you can see exactly what you're paying and don't have to worry about adding in all the dotting of the I's and crossing of the T's and that kind of stuff. GameTime is made for the consumer, and that is you. So you need to download the GameTime app today and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the app GameTime and then create an account using redeem code Locked On College, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last for tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. The other group I want to make sure that we're taking advantage of this summer is Factor. Now, Factor's got all these great options for when you're busy in the summertime. You just don't want to be cooking meals. They have nutritious, tasty options for you with no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals for the summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? 35 different meals and more than 60 different add-ons to choose from. Every week will always have different flavors to explore. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals ready in 2 minutes. There's no shopping, prepping, cooking, cleaning up, nothing. It's just 2 minutes. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 different menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or anything you're trying to do. Head to factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 and use code lockedoncollege50 to get 50% off. 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's Locked On College 50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month while your subscription is still active. All right, so I had Olympics in the brain. I've been watching a lot of Olympics these days. I'm enjoying the sprinting. Houston's very well represented in the sprinting. And I enjoyed finding the Houston Cougars in the pool. I don't think it's any secret that those are awesome moments for the university to see their athletes holding up their national flag while they're competing on the international stage with billions and billions of eyes on them. But because the Olympics stopped going over live about 4:00 or whatever, right? You get the rest of the day to sit around and think about things, was wondering what other Houston Cougars could be competing. Now, admittedly, this is in part because I was wondering, could Simone Biles build a gymnastics program full of other Simone Biles and then have Houston Cougars so well represented at the gymnastics? How much fun would that be? And You see how my brain goes way too fast sometimes. You think I talk fast? I think way too fast sometimes. But I was going down that rabbit hole and thinking about what other athletes at the University of Houston could compete in the Olympics in something. And I think the most obvious one, and this is because I am a basketball person that loves the hoops team, Malik Wilson. Okay, this guy is a tremendous athlete, floats in the air. The immediate thought for me was, okay, as a long, rangy basketball player that, he can jump because he's a basketball player. But honestly, if you really put basketball level time into it, how high could this guy jump? I'm thinking high jump. I'm thinking long jump. I'm thinking triple jump. And wait with me on this one. I'm also thinking pole vault. Now, think about the way that you launch and glide yourself in the air. It would take some bulking up the shoulders. Pole vaulters have incredibly strong upper bodies, right? And they're kind of shaped like triangles because you want to have less weight to carry on the pole, but also have a lot of strength, right? Malik Wilson's not quite there. However, I do think there's something to be said about being comfortable gliding and flying through the air. I weirdly think Malik could pull that off. It would take a little bit of working out on the upper body strength, but I think he's got something to the way he jumps that just makes me think he could carry himself with that as well. In sticking with basketball, I was looking through the women's roster the other day because I'm getting excited about the women's basketball program, and I kind of am trying to, psych myself. This could be the year we turn things around with the women's basketball program, and so on and so forth. And I got excited about a transfer named Kateri Poole. Kateri transferred from LSU, but I say Louisiana from LSU. She was a 5-star that went to Ohio State before that. She started games for LSU in March Madness when they won it all. Was that just 2 years ago? And she's a tremendous talent. She's a big, strong forward. She's a big, strong guard at 5'8", but she looks like a forward in her frame, I guess what I was trying to say. And she's really strong. I wonder, with the strong frame, is she a thrower, a shot put? She's a basketball player. Is it more of a javelin kind of a thing, etc.? Then I started scrolling through her stats, and she shoots threes at a 44% clip while at LSU. I wonder if she could get into archery. I wonder if the same kind of precision you see from a deep range shooter and LJ Cryer, I guess it would be the same kind of thing too on the men's side, Emmanuel Sharp, whatever, is that kind of hand-eye coordination the kind of thing you can harness and train into archery, right? Or any of the other different bullseye target-oriented type of events, shooting skeet at the moving target, those kinds of, I guess clay pigeons, what they formally call it. Yeah. Whatever the case may be, I think there's a potential there because it feels like the same kind of heavy duty hand-eye coordination. Some of the easier ones, I think Parker Jenkins as a hurdler is obvious. He was a sprinter at Klein Forest. He went 10.7 100, 21.88 in the 200. Obviously, that's not quite Olympic level time. That's pretty darn good for a high school sprinter. Adding in the hurdles because he is a running back, that's a very natural transition. I think Joseph Manjack IV could be a great decathlete because I have yet to see something he can't do. So why not have them do the sport where they do all the things like the decathlon? I also think for what it's worth that he just kind of has that strong, long, fast twitch frame that does well in a lot of those things. Um, I think it could be a great decathlete and represent the country well there. I went to the volleyball side of things. I paired teammates from football, and then went to the fall, pair of teammates from volleyball. And maybe, so the full disclosure, this is because I feel like I had short arms that hurt me in sports as a kid growing up. Kellen Morin, as a volleyball player, 6'4", and has long arms. She's a great blocker because of it. I mean, a high-end volleyball player because of it. Obviously, the goal, I think, would be for her to make it in some form of volleyball, and I think any of our volleyball team would say that that's their goal. But with long arms, I was wondering about throwing the discus. You think about the way the discus functions like a shot, like a slingshot. If you spin around with long arms, she's very, very coordinated with the spinning part, no problem. I just wonder if the long arm on the 6'4" frame, that's such a big advantage relative to other women she's competing against. I wonder if that could help launch things like a slingshot and the discus. Then I jumped to, and perhaps the more interesting crossover athlete here is Kate Trigatis. She is the all everything, all American, all Big 12 libero, right? And libero is the one that wears the off color jersey and is flying all over the courts and so on and so forth. I wonder, not just because she dives headfirst over scoring tables or over media tables to save the volleyball, but because of the way that she's so fearless and how she plays volleyball and throws her body around, could she, hear me out here, enter in diving? And most of that someone scared of heights. That looks incredibly treacherous, but also it takes a certain kind of mindset for someone to be like, hey, I'm going to stand on the top of this thing 30 feet in the air. I'm going to jump off and do a bunch of flips, and I'm going to hit in a perfect dive at the bottom. I think that takes a certain kind of mindset, and I weirdly feel like after watching those events the last couple of days that Kate's got it in her as well. That's my thought. Tell me in the comments down below if you've got other people you're thinking of that could also be Olympians in something else. But first, before we jump to the last bit here, I want you to talk about something happening technically at FIU, but could transition into Houston as well. I should point out that all of these people are trying to build championship caliber resumes or turn their bodies into championship caliber machines in whatever sport they're playing. And if passion, have patience, or they're winning formula for championships, they're also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level to peak performance, whether it's superchargers, roof racks, exhaust gates, LED headlights, or more, whether it's speed, power, or style. eBay Motors got you covered. Over 22 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and the eBay guaranteed fit. Your parts guaranteed to fit your ride or every time, or your money back, because the eBay Motors are going to have you burning rubber and not cash. So all the parts you need, the price you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Otherwise only, exclusions by eBay guaranteed fits, only available to U.S. customers. All right, so for the folks at home that don't pay attention to the national college football landscape, maybe weren't listening to the news about Pitt Bull or what have you, Pitt Bull, the music recording artist from South Florida, has opened up a relationship with FIU, Florida International, and has officially put his name on the outside of the stadium. Not any brand, not any recording label, his name. I've heard people reference it already as the Pit. But Pitt Bull Stadium is where FIU will be playing their games in the very, very near future. And I have to be honest, that made me a little jealous. I think there's something to be said about, as a smaller program, Florida International is looking to maybe separate themselves. And players have listened and heard in South Florida a lot of Pitt Bull music, or music by a number of artists, frankly, inspired by Pitt Bull at this point, probably. And they're like, there's something like, puts you in awe about it. There's something awe-inspiring about hearing that name. And honestly, I think Houston music is bluntly better. And I also think that if Houston's trying to set themselves apart the same way I said that they need to set themselves apart with a gymnastics program, that could be a fun way to do it. Now, TDECU is not necessarily giving up the naming rights anytime soon. This is not a for real kind of thing necessarily, but also it would take a high bidder. My initial thought, because of the connection he's established with the university, was Bun B. Now, Bun B has opened up a number of different post-music career kind of ventures across Houston. I think people think of the hamburgers as obviously a big deal, but he does a bunch of other things as well. He's made some money outside of music, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and might have the money to do it. I also think, as someone who is, he plays a lot on the idea of keeping things trill. I think, Trillville would be a very easy thing to call the stadium if it was Bun B Stadium. Bun B Stadium, aka Trillville, would kind of have the ring to what you're looking for. It also would have, I think, the mass appeal to the people you're trying to have play in it. And if you're going to play up on a Bun B type of relationship, I think that's a good way to go. Now, I mentioned that he's got a lot of money and could do it. The person who's got enough money to do it if she really wanted to is Beyonce. I first saw Joe Duarte retweet out something about calling it the Beehive. Beyonce would absolutely be the person that could do it from a money perspective. Between she and her husband Jay-Z, they've got all the cash to pay for a lot more than just naming rights on a stadium. And I think it's fair. She's also from Houston, not quite the same connection to U of H that Bun B has, but obviously if you're representing the city, if you're school for the city, hashtag for the city, then that's one way to go. If you're looking for someone that tied to the university itself, but also in the more popular recently kind of trend, Lizzo, and calling it Lizzo Land or something like that would probably be the way to go. Lizzo obviously has the music scholarship for students on campus. She got a relationship with the university, was a student. I think that's one way to go about it. Megan Thee Stallion, call it The Stadium with two E's, kind of the same kind of thing. I think Lizzo probably has more cash in the bank as far as trying to afford a naming rights deal, but Megan Thee Stallion probably hits a core with a different type of football player. They're trying to get in with whoever the celebrity is in charge of this. You could call it something to do with Travis Scott. Travis Scott being a Houstonian as well. Travis Scott also has reached the same kind of financial wealth where he would be able to do this kind of thing. Has name in a bunch of different fashion ventures on top of all the investments he's made. Then his music has obviously made him a bunch of money before and after all that as well. Travis Scott could play off Scott Street, Travis Scott Street Stadium, or something along those lines. I guess people would also wonder about the idea that he had an Astro World album and tour, and could you play off of that at all? I don't. Cactus Jack is something he's got. That's part of his clothing and stuff like that. His shoe brands are all have the Cactus Jack logo on, so do Cactus Jack like that. I would be remiss if I didn't point out the Paul Wall connection. He's got the university. The Swisher House isn't quite the name I think the school would go for as far as the stadium. But on the whole, it is something I guess you could go with. And he does have ties there. He spent 3 years there as a student and all of that. I was looking through things. I don't think I remembered that Lil Wayne went like a semester worth of school at U of H in 2005. So I've got down. Is that long ago? But Lil Wayne would have obviously oodles of cash too. He's charging a ton of money just to be on a song. And that's all to say that there are a number of different Houston area musicians that if you're drumming up some sort of popularity program amongst a bunch of different people from around it, well, those are the people to pull on. There's non-musicians as well. I mean, Mary Kay Coliseum's got a ring to it. Mary Kay is an alum. The Quaid Bowl with both Dennis and Randy Quaid would be one way to go about it as well. I think that on the whole, Houston has a bunch of different options, and while companies have typically, firms like TDECU have provided the most cash, as you're seeing these celebrities earn oodles of wealth, is there something to the idea of a South Florida kid choosing between FAU and FIU is going to go to FIU because they've got a connection to Pitt Bull, right? Well, if there's any thought in that, is there financial relevance to picking or talking with some sort of a celebrity with a tie to your university or your region or your area or your city when you're Houston, to build on that and hopefully inspire the same kind of thing. I think it's worth investigating, interrogating. We'll see how the FIU thing plays out with Pitt Bull. It might just be a silly name. They might just call it the Pit after all. But whatever the case, it's worth paying attention to. And it's worth keeping in mind that, these are the ways that college football is going. It's all about the dollar. How can you grow the dollar? And if that's through celebrities donating money, let's see what they want. And if it's their name on a building, why not? Now, that's what I've got today. We're hoping for more Big 12 news very soon. Hoping for more AD news very soon. Going to do some Olympic updates from the athletes competing as soon as some of the 4x1 kind of stuff are done as well. So make sure you hit subscribe, hit the bell so we're live, so we bring it to you each and every day here at Locked On Cougs. If you're looking for a second listen of the day, I'm going to recommend Locked On Big 12. Drake's doing a great job of kind of giving you one place to find all the information on the entire conference, who's in, who's out, and more. So make sure to check them out. Locked On Cougars is a proud member of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team, our Houston Cougars, each and every day. Go Cougs.